Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and a new game. Well, not a new game, but a new game to the channel. This game was one of the only games that I have pre-purchased actually within the last probably 5, maybe even 10 years. I usually don't pre-purchase games. A couple of reasons for that. One, they tend to be in early access for quite a while, and sometimes they don't get updated for quite some time. Now, I will say this game that we're about to start, it has been in early access for a while, but it is constantly receiving updates. I first played this as a demo when the demo was released back in 2024. Like I said, this was one of the first games in a long, long time that I pre-purchased and actually went and purchased the supporter pack because I liked the demo that much that I went ahead and purchased the supporter pack. This game is called Infection Free Zone, and it is about a virus that has taken over the world, and you're tasked with basically repopulating and rebuilding some of the area in the city that you choose. Now, this is based on real map data. As you can see here, the recommended locations they actually have mapped out in this game, and you can start from pretty much anywhere. The other thing that is really kind of unique about this is that you can search if it's not in the recommended cities or downloaded maps that you have already picked before, you can go ahead and do a search and it will bring up real streets, real highways, real buildings, real areas within a particular city and allow you to play basically that city. And you can see this is Chicago basically, and this was not downloaded. A couple of things over here that you'll notice is that with this information over here is dependent upon this selected square. There are different map sizes you can play. You can go up to a 5x5 area that you can play. And again, this is the buildings. Now this is in yellow because it's kind of warning you that's a lot of buildings. Well, it's downtown Chicago. One shouldn't be surprised by that. Buildings on the central tile, and that's this tile here, 444. Water, points of interest, roads. It gives you the temperature, the mean temperature for this particular area for a year, basically. 68 expeditions, and we'll go into that later. Vehicles, basically within this 5x5 area, there's 8 to 10 vehicles. Difficulty level says very easy, but there's additional things to that. And then you can see here the animal distribution with regards to regional data. Not likely to find a bear, but 0.5, and not as many deer and boar as there might be, say, in Oklahoma or Nebraska, something like that. Cattle, that kind of thing. You can see the tree density, resources, and building types are the default. But if you choose one of these locations, like Atlanta, for instance, you don't get a chance to do a different size of map, right? So this is basically a 3x3 map. But again, you have some of the same information over here that you can select. So, like here's Tulsa, for instance. Not as many buildings, not as many. Well, points of interest are pretty high, and you can kind of see there when you hover over it. Shops and restaurants, medical facilities, teaching facilities, agricultural buildings, not as many bakeries, museums, sports shops, or uniformed services facilities. Now, this information changes based upon where you select, right? So our forest is now 10%. Points of interest have gone down, but you can see a lot fewer restaurants and shops and everything else, depending upon where you choose on the map. Now, this one here, for instance, it has a lot of shops and restaurants. You can kind of see that there. A couple of hardware stores, no warehouses, no bakeries, no factories, that kind of thing. When we were in Chicago, you're going to see where you have 9 museums, no bakeries, a couple of agricultural buildings, but 29 hardware stores and 70 teaching facilities. You can see 2 uniformed services facilities, 508 shop or restaurants, that kind of thing. So it's this is kind of cool the way that they did this game. The thing here would be is that this would be your entire play area, right? So we wouldn't want necessarily to be here because half of it is water, right? And you're not going to be able to do anything in the water. So you're going to want something a little further out. Now, they do have some U.S. cities in this selection here of recommended locations, and then they also have world locations, and they are, again, like I said, constantly updating this. Most recent update was right before Christmas, but San Francisco, if you chose San Francisco with where they typically also give you a point in here where your headquarters is going to be. But you can see here, uniformed services facility, there's 856 restaurants, 2 warehouses, 17 museums. This, like I said, it uses real world map data. Rio de Janeiro was recently added as a map location. You could choose to play in Rio. I will say this looks pretty sparse. Half of your tile here, in fact, a good part of this tile is also taken up by water. So I don't know that is necessarily a real good place to play. Points of interest you can see is 4 uniform services facilities, though. And the uniform service facilities, think of those as more like police stations, that kind of thing. So I think what we're going to do, we could start off in Boston. I have previously downloaded, and you can see, Boston, heavily congested with buildings and the like. Here's 7 uniformed services facilities, which is good. Teaching facilities, not a lot of sports shops, not a lot of factories and scrap yards, no bakeries. But so what we're going to do is we'll start in Boston, for instance. Let's maybe not start in Boston. I don't want to slow down the game that much while we're trying to show. So let's do this. Let's start in Tulsa. We're going to go with a 5x5. We have no forest in that area, although that looks like maybe a park, perhaps. 3 to 10. Tree density is not that dense. Okay, so that's probably not a good place to play. So this is a much better place to play. Unfortunately, no uniformed services area. That's important to kind of take a look at, because uniformed services, keep in mind, like I mentioned before, think of that as like a police station, that kind of thing. And you're going to want those kinds of locations because you can scavenge those areas for weapons. And so you really want to have something like that in the area that you're going to go with. I downloaded St. Louis earlier. We have 1 there. We have 1 uniform service area there. Forest of 8%. Ideally, we'd like to see more than just 1 uniform service facility. Atlanta doesn't have but 1. We go back to Chicago. Okay, let's go back to Chicago. And we'll play this area here. So basically what you can do, and we'll leave the tutorial events and the story events on. Typically I want the amount of people and the resources higher. I'll leave the horde size here where I usually actually take it down, but let's take it down. This is the horde size, and that comes into play when the hordes of the infected, and they're not called zombies in this game, they're called the infected, they come out. We'll get this started. So it's loading a lot of data here, so it does take a little bit of time. And the first time you play on a particular map, it may take longer than the second time, just because if you're playing someplace that is not a regular map, it has to download the map data. So it can take a little bit longer to get started into the game. It will download real, actual locations and buildings. So if there is a particular building in a particular city that's named something, they'll have that typically in the map. Now, I will say, keep in mind that some of these buildings may not look right, right? Because they're taking real world map data and they're trying to basically generate this on demand with regards to what it is and what it looks like. So you may find that a particular building doesn't quite look quite right on some of these maps, but they have done a pretty good job of getting these maps right, getting these buildings right. Like I said, we're going to play through the tutorial events. I'm only going to get started in this game for a little bit because first introduction to it, there are vehicles in the game. As you saw, there were vehicles, so we can overtake a vehicle. Again, most of this information is going to come out here shortly.
We know it is gone. What we called the mad virus appeared out of nowhere. It made people turn extremely violent, aggressive, and unrestrainable. Soon later, the infected became bloodthirsty, more like vampires than human. There was chaos, panic, and war for survival. Desperate people were just as dangerous as the virus itself. Even our loved ones could become a threat. The infection spread quickly throughout the entire globe. Every region, every country, every city. Drastic measures were taken to get rid of the infected, but they all failed. The last chance for those who seemed immune was to hide in underground shelters, ones that we improvised in garages and basements, loaded with food, water, and air filtration systems. These were the places where we survived, sealed from the outside. For so long, we waited for any signal, any info that a cure had been found, or the situation stabilized. Instead, we listened as the world grew quiet. Our resources were becoming depleted. Life support systems were failing. And just as we were losing all hope, we received a distant call.
To all survivors, the infection is in decline. Seek others and rebuild.
This was the impulse we needed. There were others out there. We could come back to the surface. No more hiding. From the ruins of the old world, we will build our new home.
Okay, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit so that we can kind of see what we're looking at here. And we're going to be looking to place our headquarters building. Now, ideally, what you want is you want a building that is surrounded by other buildings nearby so that you can take over, make a warehouse. You're going to need a warehouse. You're going to need some other buildings as well. Ideally, you don't want it too large either. And it'll tell you if you try to choose a building that's too large. This building here, and again, ideally what you would want, so first and foremost, just so that you can see it, I zoomed in a little bit here. The actual street names are actually there. So this would be, if you were to look at a map of Chicago, you should see South Clark Street. And you may see, South Financial Place with a Block's Childcare nearby, right? And you can kind of see, like I said before, you can kind of tell some of these buildings, like they're big old skyscrapers. There's looks like what might have been a restaurant at one point. I'm surprised that a restaurant would be that large, but you can kind of see the details of the movie. Looks like a grocery store as well. So those are going to be key as well. I think what we're going to do, you want also a fairly defensible position, right? So I think what we're going to do is we're going to need some trees. I think what we're going to do is we're going to take this spot here. And you can see it's warning us, and it's an extremely large building, very hard to defend in the first days. And so maybe we don't choose that building. Maybe we choose, you know what? I think we're going to choose that building anyway. So this is our headquarters. And down here you can see these are the number of citizens that we have.
Operator, this is First Squad Leader. We made our way out. The neighborhood looks deserted. We'll have to scavenge the nearby buildings for any useful resources.
Okay. Find something to eat as fast as possible.
And then typically what I do is I create a number of squads here up until we only have machetes, and we hit V on our keyboard. We can then have all of these buildings kind of tell us whether there's something in them. There's it hasn't been searched yet, those kinds of things. And each of these icons means something. So this is a museum, and these are the possible resources that might be findable in that museum. So I'm going to send that one unit there by right clicking on that building and have them go scavenge that building. And as we get more folks, more squads online, we'll have them go search through the buildings. Now, what we need to do is we need to scavenge some resources, right? We need to gather some wood. We need to gather metal. So what we're going to do, we have 34 of 50 survivors here. 10 of them went to go scavenge wood. And so now we're going to have them go gather some metal, see if there's cars, the light poles, that kind of thing. And that takes another 10 away. And now we have another squad here that we're going to send to another museum. You can kind of see the percentage here of the squads scavenging that building is 34% complete. And one of the other things that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to gather food resources. Okay, so one of them found a car somewhere up here.
Car that looks drivable. Let's try to make it run again.
Okay, try it.
All right. So when we get a new squad, we're going to send them up to go get the car. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is it has additional storage areas.
I will speak on behalf of the other citizens. Let us go and adapt the buildings to suitable shelters, so we won't spend a single more night underground.
Yes, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, and we will do that, but we'll do that later because there's other things that we need to take care of first. So this icon here is the food icon. So there's chance that there's a crate of canned food in there, and your folks need food, right? So we're down to 8.8 crates of canned food, and those will go fast. As these folks scavenge these places, they've found some armor in that museum. So they're already wearing the armor. They've found some scientific materials as well as a crate of canned food. Now, your squads can only carry 4 things at one time before they're done. We're going to get this group. Okay, so now we've got a vehicle, and now we've got 10 slots.
Driving so much. This will help speed up our scavenging. And we can run over the infected if they get too close.
Well,
Going there.
Let's see.
Search done.
You can kind of see here's a medical bag here, so that's a first aid kit.
Sir, the crates are in the HQ. We have to think what to scavenge first. It will be best to check some shops or warehouses.
okay. I'll point you where to go.
Reporting. We're on the move.
Now, the other thing with this game is that you can multi-select areas for these squads to scavenge. So, for instance, this squad here is now selected. This is a small building here, and if I hold my shift key down, I can tell them to go to that one and that one as well. So once they get done with this one, they're going to go here, and then I want them to scavenge that one. This group here, once they're done, so they grabbed a bunch of pole arms. We can see here they've got pole arm weapons and some plate armor.
Sir, the sun is getting low. We don't know what's going to happen during the night. We can continue our scavenging operations in the dark, but that will be way more dangerous than waiting until sunrise.
Carry on. We need those resources.
Yeah, we could have brought them all back.
Too dangerous for unarmed civilians to work after nightfall. Everyone will return home.
Okay, let's be safe.
So these scavengers are all returning back to HQ. And you can kind of see them all running into HQ at this point. And again, you can see the status of each of these scavenging groups, these scavenging squads, and when they fill up their slots, they'll return to HQ with their items. So like this one here has got 3 crates of food that they left behind. When they empty, they'll come back to that first. And so we have a horde that's been spotted.
Just saw a group of infected. They might not be aware of our presence yet.
Get ready to fight.
Usually on the first night, you're going to have a horde or 2 that does come out, but all right, so this is rather unfortunate because we're already got a couple of hordes out here. Now, if you click on the horde, you can see the size of the horde. Right, so that one was 2, that one's 3, so not a whole lot of them. As we move further into the game, those hordes will get much, much larger, and more of those hordes will come out. They only come out at night. Okay, so this group here found guns as well as additional pole arms. So they'll return the pole arms to the HQ. They'll go back for the guns and they'll keep those. And again, you can see that they found plate armor. There's another horde. And if we zoom out a little bit, as I was mentioning, you can kind of see some of these buildings are named what is truly there in Chicago. All right, let's speed up a little bit here. Now another horde came out. We've got these guys over here. They found a little more than 10. They found some crates of food. They've stated there's nothing left. Their car is full as well as the slots that they personally had. So they're going to return everything to HQ. I'm not necessarily happy that these guys are just walking down the front part of the street. They could have been walking down the back. Hopefully they don't get seen. We're going to continue to have them search those buildings there. These guys here, so now you can see they had bricks around them, and that means basically they're in the building. So at some point that icon will disappear. And typically those hordes will go away come sunrise. So at 5:43, you can see they're going inside because once the sun comes out, they're going to be affected by the sunlight. So you can see a couple of them have retreated indoors. They started taking damage and then they went indoors. And so now all of our scavenging folks have started to go back to scavenging. What we're going to do is we're going to gather bricks. That's a big pile of bricks over here. And we're going to get this group here. Up here.
This night was easy. There are sure to be some infected around here. We should build some defenses before the next nightfall.
That group there. We're going to get that guy in there.
Chief, do you copy?
Agree. Let's build a wooden tower.
So this is one of the first things that they're having us build is a wooden watchtower. I think what we're going to do is we're going to build it here. And it took the last 4 people that we had to build it. We need 10 logs and we have 77 and we're cutting trees down, so we're going to have enough wood for that.
Found some medical supplies. They'll definitely come in handy. Now we'll be able to give first aid to the wounded. But if we want to heal people more efficiently, we'll need to build a med bay.
The med bay sounds like a good idea. We'll think of that.
Yeah, so we'll need to build a med bay. We're still looking to potentially build living quarters. And so what we can do is we can adapt one of these buildings as a shelter, right? We're supposed to be building shelters. So we could do a partial building of a shelter. Any of these buildings we could build. So that building there would give 218 people shelter. This one here would give a 63 people shelter. So that number that you see there on the top is the number of people that it would house, basically, for shelter. I don't typically build shelters early just because houses serve better, and we would then have to unadapt the building from a shelter then to a house. But I think what we're going to do is we'll go ahead and we'll get that started. Now you can see the little person icon there. That person icon means that there's no available people working on that, right? So it's looking for 21 workers. There's not enough resources of the wood, right? We don't have 86 wood. We just looked. We're at 81. We'll get the wood here shortly as people are continuing to chop trees down. Now, what we could do is we could take some people off of our bricks and our metal, and we could put them here to start building. And you can see now that both of the icons, both of the yellow writings went away, the no workers and the wood. So we have plenty of wood now. And we've got 2 people in this guard tower now with bows and arrows. They don't have guns because we don't have any extra guns that we've found as of yet.
Reporting. Chief, we found some seeds in one of the buildings. Looks like grain. There are some farming tools as well. Maybe we could use this to start cultivating the land again.
Okay, bring that in.
We should have a place where we can cook meals for our citizens. This will make our people much happier, too.
Okay, let's build a cookhouse.
So this is where we're being asked to build a cookhouse. And the number in the top now is the maximum number of staff that would be required for that cookhouse. The bottom number is that garage looking icon there. That's the amount of storage space that facility would have, and then the requirements for building that cookhouse. Now, the cookhouse doesn't need to be extremely big, so what we probably need to do, what we can do is we can turn that building into the cookhouse. And again, there's no workers there, so we're not going to be able to, let me do this, let me cancel that. Do it this way. Let's do cookhouse, but only like a quarter of it. And so there's our cost, right? 62 logs, 24 metal, 30 workers are going to need to be building that cookhouse. It still says, oh. So the scavenger workers, the citizens, typically about an hour before sundown, they will retire. They're called back. Our scavengers are still going. These guys are finally getting done with it, and these guys will be done with this. These are all of our seeds, some tools that we found as well. And so they're bringing that all back to HQ. And the hordes, now that the sun's down, right? Sunset is 7:04. The sun's down. They're now out roaming, and they have attacked our guard tower. We've got bows and arrows there right now, so they took care of that horde.
Sir, it's almost nightfall. We can already see some infected coming out of their lairs.
Okay, get ready to defend the
Hostiles
zone.
inbound!
You can kind of see the arrows being shot. They're coming after our guard tower. Okay, so we're getting attacked up here in our car. Now, the thing is you can run them over, but your car is going to take damage. That's number one. Number two, you're probably not going to kill all of them. You're going to get some of them. Okay, these guys here, we're fighting them from inside. These guys are fighting them from inside. And it's always easier if you're barricaded inside a building to fight them. Now, your folks will take damage from time to time. We've got another horde up there. We're going to get this guy, this group in the car over here. See, there's another horde down here. And because we're elevated, we can see them. Another little building here, so we can get that taken care of. And they'll start shooting. And you can see here that the watchtower did take some damage during the last time that the horde came through. So we've got some buildings over here we probably need to scavenge. And then the other thing is what we'll need to do. You can see here we've got to build. These are our tasks that we have to do. We need to build a cookhouse. We need to build some fields, and we need to adapt buildings for shelters. So we're already building the shelters. So that'll be complete. The fields, the seeds that we got earlier, that we found earlier, that'll be used for the fields. And we've got a cookhouse that's going to be, once this is built, they'll move over to here. We're only in day 3, 5:37, the sun rises. 5:37, we should be okay at that point. Let's speed up the clock a little bit here. These guys out here, those guys are going to be going inside pretty soon. So they're not only are they taking damage from our bullets, but they're taking damage from the sunlight as well. And they were able to take down that horde. Okay, so we found a gun.
Chief, we just found an assault rifle. This will come in handy against large hordes. Let's just not waste too much ammo on nothing.
Use it with caution.
So what we'll do is we'll trade out their pistol with that assault rifle, and that will give us another pistol here. And for the squad that doesn't have a pistol, they'll pick that up. So what we'll do is we'll do that. So now they have the assault rifle. We'll get them up there. About half of that shelter is built, and I think I want to stop here at this point, as this episode gets a little long, but this is the introduction to the next game that is going to be on this channel, Infection Free Zone. It's out now on Steam. It has been for a little while. It is in early access, but they are constantly updating this game with a pretty good amount of frequency, and on their Discord, they do have the ability where you can play beta version. You know, when they do the update, they'll release it in beta first. You can actually get on their Discord and join in the pre-release, basically, of the update as they build them. Guys, I would certainly appreciate a like, a subscribe, and a comment. Let me know if you guys like this game, don't like this game. This is a departure from the other videos that I've done with Hollywood Animal. Much different kind of game. So let me know what you think. See you next time. Thanks.